The Centurion Project. Written by the 8th Day of Night. Chapter 47. How Much a Human? Part 1. Elias glared daggers at the black ceiling of his room. He had gone to bed over an hour ago, and he was still painfully awake. Dawn was less than 3 hours away, and Elias was always up before dawn. If he didn't sleep soon, he wouldn't sleep at all. Again. For the third night in a row. The human rubbed his face with his hands, letting out a long sigh as he slipped his legs from beneath his covers. He curled his toes in the lush carpet of his bedroom floor, then pushed to his feet, moving into his bathroom. He flicked the light on and moved to the sink, quickly turning on the hot water. Perhaps a warm towel would help him relax. He had read about it in some book. He forgot what about, just another coverless image that sat in his library of knowledge. So much of it utterly worthless. He had skills ponies never even heard of, and even if he laid them out perfectly, they wouldn't understand. Some were relatively benign. Cleaning and repairing a dozen types of machines, particularly cars. He had always quite enjoyed messing around with cars. He also knew more than a few skills that would impress children, but nobody else. He knew origami, or at least enough to make a swan out of a napkin. He knew how to make a few simple balloon animals, back when he still used balloons for enjoyment instead of weapons. He knew how to tie a million types of knots, though that too took a darker path. He could tie a noose in his sleep, if he could just close his eyes and rest. The list went on, a million skills that either couldn't think of a use for, or had bastardized them into violent shadows of themselves. Simple carpentry turned into knowledge on how to make booby traps. Fishing turned into laying snares for people, not animals. On and on his skills spiraled, all horrifyingly violent in some form or fashion. All of which would make ponies throw him out if they even heard half of what he knew. It put his mind on a spin, driving the nail of his continuing lies deeper into his brain. He wanted to love ponies, and wanted to be loved in return. But how could he do that if they couldn't trust him? For all his talk about lying and spies, he was the biggest hypocrite he knew of. The very persona all the ponies knew was a carefully crafted lie designed to keep them innocent and unaware. It was despicable. It was just another in the long list of sins that made him no better than the beast Celestia thought he was. Elias let out a deep breath, blinking his eyes open. He stared into his mirror to find it fogged, and glancing down found the sink overflowing. The water hadn't quite reached the carpet though, so he gave it little more thought other than turning it off, and throwing a spare towel at the puddle on the floor. Elias took a washcloth and dipped it into the steamy water filling his sink, then wrung it out and walked back to his bed, laying across the back of his neck. With a long sigh, he flopped onto his bed, staring at the ceiling, while doing his best impression of Lionheart. Unfortunately, he couldn't make his brain empty enough. Elias snorted to himself. It was sad that he had to create insults about some idiot that wasn't even in the castle. That was the human in his mind, he supposed. Antagonistic, derogatory, cruel, and ever heartless. It was a sign that he didn't change too much. Elias sighed again and rolled onto his side, tossing the washcloth away. It did nothing to relax him, and now he was merely damp and restless. He stared at the wall as his mind drifted back. What had changed? Not just his environment, that was obvious, but what had truly changed with him? He identified that he was still as cruel and angry as he had ever been, so why did it feel so different? This wasn't being woken up by night terrors, this was, in his mind, far worse. He couldn't get sleep at all, and every single thought he turned inward, no matter how much he tried to focus it elsewhere. Only times of stress let him focus on other tasks during the night. It was like the sun rising drove away his inner demons in time to act like the big, strong human his ponies needed him to be. But when the sun went down, and he returned to his room... Am I really that dull? Elias blinked, then sat up, scanning his dark room. The voice had sounded almost like other Elias, but almost heavier. Almost like his voice was deeper. He couldn't see anything in the dark, but throwing on a light without being absolutely prepared would put him at a disadvantage. Elias slipped a finger under his mattress and slowly pulled forth a spare knife. Before he could draw it forth, however, the lights flicked on, forcing Elias to spring into action. He rolled from his bed and blinked rapidly to adjust to the light change. Knife in hand, he prepared to catch his attacker. He raised his arms to protect his throat and eyes, only for nothing to happen. He peeked out from behind his arm to glance around the room, and his eyes quickly locked onto a red unicorn sitting in his desk chair. The pony waited patiently for Elias to lower his guard, spinning a small knife of his own in the crimson aura of magic. Elias squinted at the pony as he shifted towards his armor stand. "Who the hell are you?" Elias asked, buying time. The pony would no doubt lie. Elias suspected that he wasn't a pony at all. It was just yet another infiltrator that he would have to deal with, no doubt trying to manipulate his mind one-on-one, like Chrysalis had done with Shining Armor. Elias made sure to keep an eye on the pony as he inched closer to his armor stand. Without meeting the pony's eyes, he had just grabbed a pilum. The long javelin would be invaluable in the close quarters. The pony huffed and shuffled in his seat.
"Elias, just listen. This isn't a trick or a trap, and I think you already know that. Just calm down, stop going for a pilum, and sit."
Shit. Was he telegraphing his movements that obviously? He had to be more cautious. Perhaps lure the pony into a false sense of calm by going for his sword belt, which was sitting on his sandals at the end of his bed. It would be risky, especially with how close the pony was, but getting his gladius would definitely put things in his fate.
"Elias, please stop,"
the pony said with a sigh.
"Going for your gladius won't help either, because I'm not here to attack you. I just need to talk. That's all. Just talk."
Elias's eyes narrowed. The pony was reading his thoughts. He hadn't stopped moving towards the armor stand, yet the pony knew he was going for his gladius. The damn changeling already had its hooks in his mind. He had to act, and fast. The unicorn growled and stomped his hoof.
"I'm not a fucking changeling."
Elias darted to his armor stand, snatching up the pilum and throwing it in one smooth motion. The pony groaned and his horn lit up. The pilum stopped midair, held by a red aura of magic. The unicorn hopped out of his seat, then dragged the javelin closer. Elias watched as the pony ran his hoof across the javelin head, then held it out for Elias to see.
"There. See? I'm bleeding red. I'm not a changeling. We both know they only bleed green."
Elias felt his bad eye twitch.
"It could be an illusion. A new changeling snuck in only a day or two ago. Slipped right under the magical exposure spell. They're adapting. And fast."
The red unicorn sighed and tossed Elias's pilum to him.
"Come on, Elias. Just fucking sit down. I think you're dragging this out because you know exactly what I am, but you don't want to admit it."
The unicorn tossed his black and gray mane out of his eyes and turned his back to Elias.
"Or just get it done with and kill me. You'll just prove them right. And then we're stuck. Really stuck."
"Stuck?" Elias echoed. The unicorn motioned to the bed.
"I'm not talking unless you're sitting. Either talk to me or kill me. I'll wait quietly for either."
Elias eyed the unicorn up and down as he sat on the desk again. The pony waited silently, blinking quietly with his brilliant blue eyes. Those eyes looked awfully familiar, but Elias couldn't quite place where he had seen them before. Probably nowhere. He had never seen the pony before him before at all.
"He was a threat. Kill him." "Well?"
the pony asked quietly. Elias let out a long sigh and moved around the bed. He scooped up his sword belt, drawing feather free. The blade flicked back and forth dangerously for a moment. Then Elias sat down on his bed, pulling out a cleaning rag. He let his eyes drop to his sword as he began to clean the blade.
"Speak. I'll decide if I'll kill you when I'm done."
The stallion sighed and smiled.
"That's my kind of answer. You had me scared for a second, Elias. I didn't think being around ponies would make you into a worse person. Hell, if it had, I wouldn't exist."
Elias's mismatched eyes flicked up to the pony, who grinned back. Elias nodded dismissively as he went back to his gladius. His mind seemed to work at a snail's pace, but he was putting the pieces together.
"So what are you?"
Some kind of manifestation of what Luna is trying to turn me into? Some kind of soft pony stooge? The unicorn snorted.
More or less, just without the stooge part. Besides, you act like we haven't already made progress into being a pony.
You better pray I haven't. Elias responded without looking up. Because whatever you are, I have a feeling you can die quite easily. And cutting away the ponies I have allowed to stay close is easy. Cutting butter is more difficult.
Is that why you're going to Bookbinder Night Flash's wedding with Luna?
Elias's eyes flicked up again, and he had to resist the urge to cut the smug pony's throat. His hand twitched, and a voice in his head urged him to strike. He let out a long breath as he focused on his sword. Accuse me of weakness again, and I'll walk to Luna's room right now and tell her we're through. I need to be a general first. A human general. It's what these soft ponies need. The red unicorn winced and shuffled in his seat. Elias could feel alarm emanating from the pony as he frowned.
I think we started wrong. Let's just...
The pony took a few deep breaths, then seemed to mutter to himself for a moment. Elias felt an itch on the inside of his ear, like someone was whispering in it, but he couldn't hear a damn thing. The pony's ears flicked, and he took one long breath before sticking out his hoof.
Hi, Elias. I'm Red. Your pony manifestation.
Elias stood at the pony blankly for a moment, then snorted, ignoring the outstretched hoof.
And just how did I come to be a pony?
Elias replied. Red held up his hoof for a moment more, then sighed and let it drop.
That's a complex question. Technically, I don't exist anywhere but your, or rather, our mind. But I am pleased to tell you that we can become a pony at any time if we so choose.
I snorted again and looked up to Red.
First, no.
I already said I need to be a human general. And if you haven't even a shred of intelligence in that stupid pony body, you'd know that. Second, the answer is definitely no, because you're weak. I need to be a strong, battle-hardened leader, and you aren't it. You pouted when I didn't shake your hoof. Elias regarded the pony with disgust, inspecting him from top to bottom. On top of that, you have no muscle mass to speak of. Do you even know how to swing a sword? Red growled.
I can fight just fine. I'm as sane as I ever was. I've just been offered more. It's an opportunity I recommend you take.
Elias waved feather through the air, checking each side of the blade to ensure that it was clean and sharp. And just who is offering the magical transformation of yours? The Tooth Fairy?
The Keepers of Harmony.
Red replied smartly. Elias looked at the pony in disbelief. The gods of Equestria are offering me, via a piece of my own brain that I have never encountered before this exact moment, the opportunity to become a pony, a few months before what is bound to be one of the most violent and bloody marches in equestrian history. Am I getting that right? Red huffed.
It's more than that if you just let me talk for a fucking second. I haven't even gotten to a piece of my explanation without you being a cynical jackass.
The pony started and crossed his hooves.
That's no reason we find it so hard to make friends.
Elias ran his tongue across his teeth, then chuckled and shook his head. He spun his legs around the side of the bed and faced the unicorn directly. All right, then, Red, Elias said. Make your little sales pitch. Let's hear what the literal gods have to offer me. Elias tapped his chest with the gladius. I won't say a damn thing until you're done, but I want everything. Start with what you are, how you came to be, and then move to what I'm being offered. Red smiled and shuffled in his seat again. Elias watched his movements closely, though for what reason he didn't know.
That works for me,
Red said.
Just keep an open mind, Elias. I promise that nothing but good can come from this, if we would just listen and think it all the way through.
Elias spread his hands. Then speak, because I'm all ears.
Let's start with what I am. Again, my name is Red, and I am currently a part of your mind that has accepted life in Equestria. as a pony, with all the cuddling, snuggling, and friendship that entails.
The unicorn paused, clearly expecting Elias to interrupt, but the human said nothing, merely rested his hands in his lap as he sat cross-legged on the bed. Red's tail twitched with excitement as he continued.
As for your second question, I came to be over a long process, though if I had to pick a single moment that I existed, I would say that it was Heartwarming Eve. Remember when we were all snuggled up against Luna?
The unicorn shuddered and closed his eyes as happy sighs left his lungs.
It was so warm and snuggly and just great. You and I remember things differently,
Elias thought.
I distinctly remember feeling the loneliness I ever been, followed by near death, then letting in my heart bleed out.
Red nodded enthusiastically.
Exactly. We started Heartwarming completely at our lowest, but by opening our heart to Luna and then allowing Bookbinder and Night Flash back in, we took a step forward to being a pony. It's when I really began to manifest.
Elias had forgotten that the pony could read his thoughts. He needed to figure out how to... His brow furrowed as he tried to think without thinking. Red gave him an odd look as he continued speaking.
Finally, the opportunity we are being given is simple to explain. You see, the Keepers have been keeping a close eye on us since we came to Equestria, but they like to take a hooves-off approach, so they merely watched and waited, analyzing every little thing about us, including how our brain worked.
The unicorn grinned and sat up, puffing his fuzzy chest out.
Did you know that ponies and humans share a 90% compatibility ratio? It takes next to no time or magical effort to switch a pony to a human and back again. The only issue comes in respect to requiring a genuine equestrian soul.
Red shook his head, blinking rapidly before focusing on Elias again.
Sorry. The Keepers mixed a bit of the element of magic in my personality to bring me to life. That won't happen if you choose to become a pony. Promise.
Elias stared at the pony silently, waiting for him to continue. Red chuckled nervously, then spoke.
Anyway, the Keepers have been keeping a close watch on us, making sure we weren't some big danger they needed the princesses to take care of. It was them, on Heartwarming Eve, who filled us with harmonious song, and it was them who helped contact Luna to our song to get her to save us. Without their help, we would have died there and then. Why did they help us?
Elias asked. He needed to keep the pony occupied. Red didn't seem to notice the stray thought as he grinned, no doubt thinking that Elias was hanging on to his every word.
They saw an opportunity. You see, alicorns were basically created as equestrians' primary defense. The Keepers chose ponies who were exceptionally good, grant them enhanced abilities, and then prolong their lives for a contract. Something like 10,000 years or some such. It varies each time.
Red waved his hoof.
The numbers aren't super important. What is the fact that Luna used her powers and went rogue. The Keepers have been looking for a good way to make sure she doesn't turn again, and they believe that we are the method. That brings me to the last point, their offer. If we accept, not only do we have their permission to marry Luna.
Elias's eye widened with shock.
Whoa, no. That's a bit forward.
We haven't even done anything together, let alone start talk of. Red snorted dismissively.
Save it for everybody else, Elias. I'm you. I know our feelings. Sure, you haven't figured them all out the way, but marriage is down the line somewhere. This just speeds things up and makes them simpler.
The unicorn hadn't noticed his movements.
Why was he doing this?
Good.
Anyway,
Red continued.
We'll get permission to marry Luna, we'll be granted an extended life so she doesn't outlive us, and we get changed into a unicorn, specifically me. If we do good, you know, staying loyal, helping out and the like, we even get a free pass to the...
Elias made his move in an instant and his dagger plunged without mercy into the pony's ribs. Red gasped softly, meeting Elias' snarl with a look of pain and shock. Elias blinked in surprise when he realized that the pony looked incredibly sad. Disappointed even. Then he felt a prickle in his ribs and Elias choked. Blood spilled out of his lips down his chin, and Elias quickly found that it was hard to breathe. He collapsed on his side, and to his surprise, Red didn't. With a small gasp of pain, the pony pulled out the knife and sighed as he inspected the blood on it. His eyes flicked down to Elias for a moment, then back up to the knife.
I just want to know why.
The pony whispered.
It's a good deal. And I know we hate who we are now. So why? Why are you trying to kill this part of yourself?
Elias felt fear and confusion flash through his mind as he stared at the pony as he struggled to speak.
I don't know.
He managed to gasp out. Blackness began to swamp his vision, and Elias felt himself slipping away as the pony growled.
Don't worry, Elias. It's not your fault. I figured it out.
The pony hopped out of his seat and rubbed Elias's leg.
Go to sleep. I'll deal with this bully for now. You need a good snuggle break.
The pony growled as somebody cackled out of Elias's view. The human continued to choke, and his vision continued to diminish as the sound of spell discharges filled the air. Elias shot up with a gasp, panting hard as a pony shape squealed in the darkness beside him. The pony flopped off the bed and thudded to the floor, but Elias didn't care about the intruder. He scrambled as he ripped off his tunic, feeling his ribs. His fingers scanned everywhere, even going so far as to touch the chitin on his hip to confirm that he hadn't been stabbed. He panted desperately, trying to collect himself as he felt tears streak down his cheeks. It had felt so real. The choking, the knife, it all hurt so damned much. Elias wanted to wrap his arms around himself and cry his way to sleep, but the thought of being alone and having another nightmare like that? The pony popped his head back up, and Elias managed to retain enough of his sanity to recognize Snowball. The loveling's floppy ears flattened against his head as he stared at Elias.
General? Are you alright? I was coming by to get some love, like we had talked about, but you were so distressed, so I let myself in and...
Elias reached over to the side of the bed, snatching up the loveling into a tight hug. Elias felt the floodgates break under the combined pressure of months of lonely stress and his lifelike nightmare. He cried hard as he hugged the bug pony close to his chest, burying his face in Snowball's fur. He cried without shame, just desperate for any kind of comfort. The emotivore was kind enough to return Elias's hug after he overcame his shock. Elias felt the loveling rub small circles on his back, and he heard small shushing noises come from the loveling's mouth. The bug pony embraced him fully, and Elias couldn't help but to feel his heart warm. It felt good to just hug a pony. He hadn't realized how much he had missed it, and it felt like a physical ache in his heart was eased by the loveling he was clinging so desperately to. Elias felt a light tug on his chest, and his tears eased enough for him to regain enough sense to momentarily pull away. Snowball took a deep breath and smiled, then opened his eyes. They positively shined at Elias as the bug pony snuggled against his chest.
You have all the makings of an excellent love sponsor,
Snowball said quietly.
I took more than enough to feed me for a week, yet you're positively swelling with gratitude and love.
Elias felt his grip on the loveling loosen, but before he could truly let go, Snowball tightened his grip, and he nuzzled Elias's cheek until the human met his eyes. Snowball smiled lightly.
It is no insult, General. Love sponsors are some of the most valued members of any hive, and I meant it in the best way possible. You are a very caring individual, and anybody who knows you knows that.
He nuzzled Elias's neck.
And I think it makes you an even better leader. Every pony can see that you care.
Elias felt the loveling lock his grip around Elias' chest, and he felt Snowball smile as he rested his chin on Elias's neck.
Well, General, it is time to let somebody care for you. Let's start with your nightmare,
I can still imprison you for this.
Elias threatened weakly. Snowball nuzzled his neck.
But it won't make you feel any better. You're hurting, General. And I swear to you right now that nobody, not even my queen, will hear of this. This is just between us. Speak. Please. I need to know what's on your mind so I can give you appropriate comforting.
Elias shook his head. That was too far. He shouldn't have ever made a deal with the loveling. should have driven him away. The nightmare had gotten him too shaken up and had gotten him running scared. But he also needed this. What had Red told him to do?
Take a cuddle break.
Red's voice whispered in his mind. Malai sighed and laid back, keeping his arms around Snowball. The loveling took it as a good sign, and he nuzzled Eliza's chest before settling, his purple eyes staring expectantly up. Eliza thought a long sigh.
You swear you won't say a word of this to anyone?
Snowball smiled.
Not a word. I promise. This is all for your benefit, General. Just let it out.
A cliffhanger with regards to mental health. Now that's a new one. Usually it's an action cliffhanger or something like that. But no, you don't get all the juicy bits until the next episode of TCP. Or unless, of course, you read this and you're listening to my renditions. I appreciate you guys. However, what I also appreciate are my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my tier 1s, Bounce Kindness, Chase the Master, Dreamless Portal, Hyperlink, Jason, HK4, aka Texture, Night Game, Big Cario, Pony Entertainment, Starlight Blaze, and Rank Flicker. Rank Flicker? Rain Flicker. My tier 2s, Captain Blue Shadow, Chaotic Mist, The Animated Ghost, Agent 2000, Elemental Wolf, H1 Wolf King, Potato 20, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Mackenzie McCullough, Nocturne, Papa Lennon, Redeemer of Dark, Solus Eclipse, Sword Brother, and Mordred Artie Bryant. A large thank you to my previous Titan tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, and Maverick. And a large thank you to my current ones, User 1842 and Silent Titan. I appreciate you guys' support so much, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.